And so, we, I think, have good reason to revisit some of those culminating and intensive passages of Vishwamitra's suktas, which, in my mind, bring up and develop these dimensions of the uncaused and universal inherent fulfillment of fruition and function in life, in those terms that from Sukta 3 sets its own bliss of the Godhead at the foundations of things, here existing into its unconditioned and self-resplendent entirety. For if everything coming to its undeformed and natural essence, beyond accidents of condition and cause, has and does exceed the limitations and divisions, the duality of things, then that resident consciousness, that resident supernal entirety, is the truth and soul and nature of being of occasion before all other adjunct aspects of expression and existence. So from Sukta 5, the fire is awake fronting the dawns. One illumined, he becomes aware of the path of the seers, kindled into a wide might by the seekers of the Godhead. The upbearing flame opens the gates of the darkness. And so its consciousness becomes the full consciousness, just as the full nature of the organism overtakes all mediations of instances of functions in its undeformed reality. This seminal and universal, purposeful seat and soul of transition of cause, the fire is awake, fronting the dawns. It is one, illumined. He becomes aware of the paths of the seers, the paths of all witness, the path of all seers. Become aware into and unto him, he becomes aware of them. His capacity, its reality overtakes limiting aspects in its own reality. One illumined, he becomes aware of the paths of the seers, kindled into a wide might by the seekers of the Godhead. So, it desires them as they desire it. Its unpartability, their universal seeking, this full condition of nature of truth, makes it kindle into a wide, into an undiluted, into the vast measure. Kindled into a wide might by the seekers of the Godhead, the upbearing flame opens the gates of the darkness, opens the gate of being and dimension. Ever the fire increases by the lauds, the praises, the words of those who hymn him by their utterances, one to be adored with prostrations. The messenger who desires the many seeings of the truth has shone out in the wide flaming of the dawn. So this is, which is the messenger unto all, which is the communicant, the capacity for communication. It desires the rich many seeings. It desires the full unfolded entirety of itself, essence. And submitting to that, hymning that, this universal continent and congruence of truth is awoken. Ever the fire increases by the lauds, the words of those who hymn him by their utterances, one to be adored with prostrations. The messenger who desires the many seeings of the truth has shone out in the wide flaming of the dawn. The fire has been set in the human peoples. Child of the waters, the friend who achieves by the truth. So this companioning presence which comes to its royal sway only by the truth, only by the whole, does it confirm and conform and draw this set in the human peoples to its entire and dignifying soul and source of connection. Luminous, a power for sacrifice, he has arisen to the summits. He has given the pinnacle seat of all perspective. He has become the illumined seer, who must be called by our thoughts. The fire, when he has been kindled high, becomes Mitra, the friend. So it's taken the full height and perspective and communing call of being, and itself in itself becomes the illumined seer, this full harmonization who has to be called by our thoughts, and in such a way he becomes both the companioning and the protection. The fire has become, kindled high has become Mitra, the friend, Mitra, the priest of the call, Varuna, the knower of the births, Mitra, the friend, the priest of the pilgrim sacrifice, one rapid in his impulsions, the dweller in the house, the friend of the rivers, the friend of the mountains. So all the streaming of the rivers to the whole, all of the purposeful perspective. He guards from hurt the beloved summit seat of the being. Mighty he guards the course of the sun. Fire guards in the navel center the seven-headed thought sublime. He guards the ecstasy of the gods. So all being drawn to that one commitment, perspective, communion and state, it is this that protects, guards from hurt the beloved summit seat, the course of whole animation of interaction and relation and union of this one perspectiving illuminant of the course of the sun, the navel center of nourishment of this entire dimension of thought, divine, sublime, the ecstasy of the full divine dimension, all are protected in and of it. Hence a skillful craftsman, a god knowing all manifestations of knowledge, he forms the beautiful and desirable name. This full communion is the awakening, the full, beautiful and desirable name, the awakening the meaning in the heart and soul and essence of being, the luminous seat of the being in the movement of the peace. This supernal peace and full dimension of awakening to the supernal peace, being that which unveils itself at the heart of this word and communion and call, this beautiful and desirable name. That the fire guards, not deviating from his work. So all this summit, this point, this perspective, all this to be recalled is unified into this perfect word, this perfect name, this luminous seat of the being in the movement of the peace. And then it draws everything to its culminating inclusion of entire capacity through its another angle and layer, desiring it as it desired him. So the whole, this which is life unto itself, desires the expression of its full state, and it desires him as its continent and universal truth and seat and soul and source of all connection. Desiring it as it desired him, the fire entered into that luminous native abode, wide in its approach. Its very approach, this full condition of reality, is not constrained by the adjunct limitations, but lives unto the life in its reality of dimension. Shining forth, pure, purifying, sublime, again and again he makes new the Father and the Mother, the universal generation in eternity of the unparted, unseparated, full communion of seat and soul of cause, of the unparted Om, which is not divided into adjunct limitations, is made new again and again in that uncreate creation which is cradled unto the heart of the purposeful soul and seat of all. Suddenly born, he is carried by the growths of the earth, when the mothers who bore him make him grow by the light. The fire in the lap of the father and the mother is as one who defends the waters gliding happily down a slope. So the cradling of all process in its uncreate reality and truth. Lauded by us mighty, he shone with his high flaming in the largeness of heaven. This full uncreate creation is the full horizon and expansion of all things in its own eminence. Lauded by us mighty, he shone with his high flaming in the largeness of heaven, in the navel center of earth, companioned with its nourishing continuum. The fire is Mitra, the friend, the desirable one. He is the life growing in the mother. So this transitioning power, this stable and seated power, is the same as the Lord of Love and Brahman in its universal communion of entire capacity, growing life in that unconditioned full union of cause. The friend, the desirable one, he is life growing in the mother. May he, as our messenger, bring the gods for the sacrifice. The fire with his high flaming up-pillared, so it's unfolded how the peak and soul and word and cradle of all continuum of relation is encapsulated in its consciousness, awakening the full aspiration and entirety of things. And now it's showing that this one unconstrained, unconditioned, uninterrupted, in its directness, its fullness of up-pillared reality, is that which is set the completeness of the basis of all things. The fire with his high flaming up-pillared, sublime, the firmament, and became the highest of the luminous kingdoms, when for the flame seer's life, that grows in the mother, kindled all round the carrier of the offerings who was hidden in the secrecy. So this same alignment of the flame seer's life, laid up in the mother, awoken by this secrecy of its universal, inherent, and undiminished dimension. O fire, achieve at my call the revealing speech, the many-actioned, the lasting conquest of the light. May there be for us a son of our begetting pervading in his birth. O fire, may there be created in us that true thinking of thine. Sukta 6. The doers of the work, seekers of the Godhead, who find expression by the thought, lead it on, turned Godwards, full of the plenitude, luminous, carrying the understanding, it journeys forwards, bringing the offering to the fire. So that same consciousness which becomes aware of the path of the seers, here all the doers of the work are the seekers of the Godhead, who find expression by this universal sublimity of entire conformity of the thought, leading it on, turned Godwards, in this universal way. Full of the plenitude, luminous, carrying the understanding. All of the dimensions of its reality are such. They all are full of the plenitude. They all are luminous. They all are carrying the understanding. It journeys moving forwards, bringing the offering to the fire. The peal of Sachitanand fusing the native thing into its own native essence, the fire into the branched lightning to the parent mind. Even in thy birth thou hast filled earth and heaven, And now thou hast exceeded them, O flame that carries on the sacrifice. Everything is its full dimension of revelation in its unconditioned cause of full reality unto itself, but its suchness always exceeds all their measure. They're set at full regard in instance and communion and motion, but perpetually exceeding, perpetually draws all to the height of enlightenment, reality and state. O flame that carriest on the sacrifice, by the greatness of earth and heaven, may thy 7 tongues find utterance, carriers of the word, O fire. Heaven and earth and the lords of sacrifice set thee within as the priest of the call, for the house when human beings, seeking Godhead, having the delight, ask for the resplendent ray. And so every dimension comes to set thee within as the priest of the call, in its habitation, in the house, when all things and when human beings, seeking Godhead, having the delight, ask for the resplendent ray. Mighty he is seated steadfast in the world of his session, rejoicing between the 2 mightinesses of earth and heaven. He is seated steadfast in himself, and hence is the priest, hence is the messenger between manifestation and eminence, unparted in their communion in heart and soul of entire reality. The united wives of one moving Lord, ageless and inviolate, the 2 milch cows giving their rich yield of milk, the purity of their nourishment, of their entire wedded reality, is undivided from this true supernal and unconditioned state of reality's cause. Great art thou, O fire, and great the law of thy workings. By thy will thou hast built out earth and heaven. In thy very birth thou becamest the messenger, O mighty Lord, and thou the leader of men that see. Set under the yoke with straps of the yoking the 2 maned steeds of the truth, red of hue, dripping light, thou, O God, bring all gods, O knower of the births, make perfect the ways of the pilgrim sacrifice. From heaven itself thy lights blazed forth, thou shinest in the wake of many outshinings of the dawn, when, O fire, passionately burning in the woods, the gods set the waters to their work for the rapturous priest of the call. So this unparted union of manifestation and eminence that are bringing their rich nourishment in entire wedded capacity, being yoked to this desire and dripping light of entire dimension, making the pilgrim sacrifice the heart and seat and soul of attitude of all. So you're putting universal process, putting the waters to their work in this burning of the many, this consuming past adjunct aspects, the branched happenings of the woods. And all of this is for the rapturous priest of the call. The gods who take their rapture in the mid-world, or those who are in the luminous world of heaven, or those lords of sacrifice who are helpful and ready to the call, let them thy chariot horses have borne towards us. This one converting and association at the foundation of being, every aspect of what is needful to be awoken, has alone awoken into and unto us. Come down to us with them in one chariot, in your one vehicle, or in many chariots, for thy horses pervade and are everywhere, according to thy self-law. Bring here with their wives the gods 33, and give them to drink of the rapture. He is the priest of the call, for whose growing even wide earth and heaven speak the word, at sacrifice, on sacrifice. And so this occasion of this universal condition of state, every dimension of manifestation, every dimension of eminence is speaking the sacrifice of this sacrifice at this occasion for this truth, just as equalizing to that which is the true, delivering the function to that which is the full reality, equalizes to that which is, sacrifices to this full sacrifice. Facing each other, fixed like two ends of the pilgrim way, the truth they keep in his truth, who from the truth was born. O fire, achieve at my call the revealing speech, the many-actioned, the lasting conquest of the light. May there be for us a son of our begetting pervading in his birth. O fire, may there be created in us that true thinking of thine. And the last one, Sukta 7. They who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation have entered into the Father and Mother, have entered into the seven voices. The Father and Mother who dwell encompassing all, move abroad and go forward, to give by sacrifice, long extended, the life. And so as it drew this symmetry of the eternal unconditioned suchness of full capacity, of the uncaused mantle of the eternal in itself, being that which is made new at the source and soul of happenings of things, so everything in the reality of its own dimension climbs the dark-backed foundation and enters the Father and Mother, which is making this long-extended sacrifice which gives itself and awakes unto the life. They who have climbed from the dark-backed foundation have entered the Father and Mother, have entered into the seven voices. The Father and Mother who dwell encompassing all move abroad and go forward to give by sacrifice long extended the life. He reached the milch cows that dwell in heaven, and so the nourishment of the eternal, the milking of the eternal, is attained at the seat and heart and soul of the now, in the truth of this uncaused reality unto everything. He reached the milch cows that dwell in heaven, the mares of the male, the divine rivers that carry in their flow the sweetness. The one light moves on the way around thee when thou seekest thy dwelling in the house of the truth. So that one purity, that one seat, that one unconditioned entire association and communion which unveils the full and entire dimension of meaning and essence and life and enumeration, contains thee, comprehends thee, is thy true harbor and home and nature and seat and soul of trust. When one moves on the way, when it moves on the way, and around thee you are seeking your dwelling in the house of the truth. On every side, so containing everything in its own stream of uncommitted, uncaused reality, on every side he ascends them, and they become easy to control. He awakens to knowledge, and is the Lord and discoverer of the riches. So he sees through everything continently unto its entire reality of end, and it in him, this in that, can control them from within, is their full reality from within. The non-dual end, giving the cause that overtakes function and inspires it and captivates it in this uncaused full life of condition of reality enlivened. On every side he ascends them, and they become easy to control. He awakes their fathom from all angles. The peace contains them. It doesn't have limited adjunct, but it awakens its own supernal comprehension. He awakes to knowledge and is the lord and discoverer of the riches. Fire with his blue back and many diverse faces brings them from the ever-moving foundation to a settled dwelling. What seems this perennial motion and generation and transition becomes eternal peace, becomes its universal stability, becomes the effect dependent on its cause, and the effect awakening in that which never left it, its cause of full merit and meaning and soul of truth. The rivers energized and bear his mighty force of formation, firmly fixed and undecaying. He shines out wide with his limbs in the world of his session, and has entered earth and heaven as if they were one. They are non-different to him. Manifestation and eminence, in his perspective, are undivided. The whole is awakening in all those functions in its own eternity. All of this is limbs of this one life. They knew the bliss of the ruddy shining bull, and they rejoice in the rule of the Great One. This exclusive association, this underpinning association to this ruling life, as explained in this operation, is the rejoicing at the heart and soul that gives all to quiet, beyond limited adjuncts in its full universal truth of living capacity. They are the lights of heaven, luminously blazing, and the word of revelation is their mighty common speech. One hears and sees the whole of this entirety, beyond the accidents, before the accidents of their function. The heaven, this uncaused cause, its entire conformity, luminously blazing fills them, and the word of revelation is their mighty common speech. Their entire work is this speaking, this word, this utterance. And great by the knowledge of the great Father and Mother, they led his strength in the wake of its proclaiming call, where the bull bears his worshipper round the hold of night towards his own seat. The overlap of being, carrying to the residence like an eclipse to its original and undistanced call of eternal entirety. 7 illumined seers guard by the 5 priests of the pilgrim rite the beloved seat of the being that is set within. Moving forward, the imperishable bulls take joy. The gods move according to the law of the workings of the gods. I crown the 2 supreme priests of the invocation. The 7 pleasures take their rapture by the self-law of their nature. The truth they express, the truth only they speak. Guardians of the law of its action, according to that law they shine. The many rays, well governed in their course, grow passionate for the great horse, the many-hued bull. O divine priest of the call, rapturous, awakening to knowledge, bring here the great gods, and heaven and earth. So all this continent communion, all this continent culmination, all this thirsting and finding this supreme vehicle of its entire life, that it awakens to as that of its sole concern and communion and cultivation of essence, overtakes and is this expression, is its reality, is its speaking, is its conformity, above and before and calling us to the harbor and soul of the happenings of all things. The swift-running dawns have shone opulently, bringing us our satisfactions with their true speech, their rays of intuition. And do thou, O fire, by the greatness of the earth, cut away for the vast even the sin that has been done. Renew it past all adjunct aspects, eternal in its own eternity. O fire, achieve at my call the revealing speech, the many-actioned, the lasting conquest of the light. May there be for us a son of our begetting, pervading in his birth. O fire, may there be created in us that true thinking of thine. And so as there was a universal inspiration of developing, building merit that went through many of those suktas and awoke to this one undefiled and unparalleled disclosure of essence and communion and inhabitation to that which is the eternal in all of its awakening inspiration and soul of truth, I thought it was of great interest to treat these together in the connections that they rouse and form for us again and again